Good morning, everyone. Looks like we have a little bit of a smaller group today, but we'll record our session so anyone who isn't here can review what we chat about. I don't expect us to take the whole hour today, but I did want to take a minute to do a few housekeeping things, just to chat about those. So let me share my screen. We can go into any questions that are outstanding. So you should on your screen see our Basecamp General WISPOWs group. Just a quick reminder, all recordings are attached to the session that is posted. So if you need to review those recordings, any additional documentation is also attached. So you'll be able to see here for our collection manager session that was back in December. There's the PowerPoint that is shared, as well as any additional documentation and the recording. The recordings aren't links. They are actual downloads, which you can download. They're very large, so I'm not able to email them or send them. I can upload them, but just a reminder, that's where they live, so folks can revisit them. Another thing I wanted to mention is that we've talked about, okay, thanks, Melody. Is scheduling for the one-on-one reviews for WorldCat Discovery. You can do that by clicking the Schedule Time with Beth link, and it will take you to my Outlook calendar. So it will show you what times I'm available, give you the option for a 1 hour or a 30-minute check-in. For those discovery reviews, I do request that you use the 1 hour option. But I also want to mention that this is available at any time. A couple folks this week have just scheduled some check-ins to chat about some questions or issues they've had specific to their institution. So this is also available ongoing. So if you have a question that pops up and you really just want to talk it out, we can have a 30-minute chat. So those are available. I do ask that when you select a time and you schedule, we'll select this 30-minute and take a look at what it looks like, that you do include in the notes the reason that you want to chat, just so that I am prepared going in. It gives me an idea of what we're going to talk about. So if it's collection manager related, or if it is something with your data or a configuration issue, just add a quick note so I know what we're going to talk about. We can talk about other things too, but just a general idea of what our chat will be about. So that's always going to be available throughout the remainder of our time together, as well as going into the following year as you have ongoing implementation support. So you'll be able to schedule one of those two options. And you'll see all of that availability. This is not restricted, so it goes all the way out. And you'll be able to see those dates. Now for the discovery sessions, I do ask that you look beginning February 17th and schedule forward into March. If there isn't something available that works for your team, we can be flexible in looking at that.
Beth, can you show me where did you access that one more time?
Sure, right here in the WISPOWs main group, right here with the schedule time with Beth. Just hit this link and it opens right up the bookings.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I know there are some folks that have sent me questions over the last few days, and I'll be working later today and tomorrow to get replies out to those. It's been a little hectic between the holiday and the crazy weather and everybody's adjustments, but I am working on getting answers to those questions. Now, I know one question that has come up a lot recently is related to the data that Melody sent on the 13th. Now, at this point, this is just data for us to review. We haven't begun loading data. We aren't working with the data at this point. The data was sent in so that our data team can review it, take a look at it. And then what they do is they use the subfields in the 945 in your Sierra data to create the translation table. So they're creating the base of that translation table, which we're going to talk about on Tuesday. So that's my job for tomorrow, is to go in and download them all and clean them up and make sure they're ready for you to begin working on. There is no rush with the translation tables. Each of you have your own date for when the translation table is due, and that is listed in your individual WISPALs or your individual institution to-do lists. So for our folks at Northwood, your location translation table isn't due until March 18th. And then they kind of go on about a 2-day cycle from there through the group. So review that date. That's when it's due at the latest. It can be turned in earlier if you are super excited about working on the translation table and you get to it before then. Now the translation table, and we're again going to talk about this more in depth next week, is the mapping for your locations. So we're taking the subfield from your item data to pull that code that lives in Sierra so that you can map it to what a shelving location will be in WMS. And again, we'll talk more in depth. I'll go through it. I'll show you some examples and what you can think about and some things to be aware of as you begin working on it. Amy, I see you have a question.
Yeah, so this isn't about shelving location names, but about like branch location names.
Sure.
We were working on this the other day and we're wondering how long branch location names can be. Is there a best practice or?
The 35 characters for branch names, and it's 125 for shelving location names. But I do have a PowerPoint that we're going to go through with all of that on Tuesday. But yeah, it's a little more limited for branch, excuse me, for branch location names. Now,
Okay.
we will have the overriding institution name at the top attached to it. So if this is like the Smith Library and the Miller Library and so what the common name would be that your students would be familiar with as you're thinking about those names.
Okay, thank you. And then I have a question sort of related to shelving locations as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think this has been talked about before, but we couldn't remember the answer regarding e-resources that we might have in our catalog that don't have a shelving location because they're e-resources, so they wouldn't have like an item record. How do those things get migrated?
If it does not have an item record in Sierra, there's nothing for us to migrate. We aren't able to migrate them. So if you have records that you want to migrate to kind of an online location, you would need to create an item location field for them in Sierra before we can migrate them.
Okay.
Amy, we were able to just add a field to the bid record that had that information. And Melody can show you what she had us do to our electronic records. And that way, when they get imported, it gives them all the information that would have been in the item record.
Thank you, Kim. Okay, we'll find out from Melody then. Thank you.
Sure.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So again, next week's session will be on translation tables. We have my data team there. They're very speedy. So as soon as Melody had those that initial data transferred in, we then could see they began the work. That's right, Rachel. Most of your e-resources will not migrate. You are going to manage those in the knowledge base. Then in 2 weeks, on the 4th, just another reminder, we are having our session that you are encouraged to invite your campus IT folks to. This will go over authentication and patron data. So if 2 different people manage that information, then please make sure you invite both of them. If one person handles authentication and maybe manages your proxy, and another person deals with patron data at your institution, please, I encourage you to invite both of them. We will, of course, have the recording available, but it's always great for them to be there in real time to be able to ask questions as needed. Authentication isn't typically too tricky because they've done this work with other applications at your institution. So it's just good to hear it from me and then be able to get those resources linked out. Okay. That's all I have for any housekeeping. I do want to open it up for any questions related to course reserves. if possible. Yep, yeah, okay, Amy, you saw Melody's message about the 9:45 field. Great, excellent. All right.
Can you hear me now? Hello?
Yeah, hi. Hello, Melody.
Yay! I'm so sorry. I was like talking before and like they are not hearing me at all. I'm so sorry. I don't know. I'm having some big computer issues this morning. But yes, Amy, we simply just add a whole 945 field in the bib record, and you can bulk update them. It's really fast as long as there's a way to group all of those in a create list, then we can just update them. So it's a pretty quick process, but you will need to do it for any e-resource that you want to migrate over. And I will need to know what those e-resources are, so that there's a possibility I did not include them in that first initial load.
Okay, we don't have a
So I'll
lot.
want to just make sure that they get on your final load. Okay.
I see Rachel is asking what kind of e-resources. So for example, we purchased a streaming video directly from a publisher. So it's not in a database. It's not, and it doesn't even have, like a link. We had to upload the film. It's a streaming film onto like our Canvas. And then we created a libguide where it lives. So, and it's password protected. So it's a streaming film that's not through a database. And we have a couple of ebooks like that as well. I would say these things are under, fewer than 10 items that we're talking about here.
Yeah, we had similar. We also have the OER textbooks that we have been creating for faculty. We want to make sure those are in the catalog. So those have been put in there. We had some ebooks. We had also wanted links to our library guides. So we had records for those too.
Great. And all of those can be added later, or any additional purchases that you make that you want to add, you can add those later. I typically recommend that you give it a shelving location of online or something of that nature. Same with like the call number, either it be online or e-resources or something like that. You can repeat that wording if needed.
Amy, I just checked, and I would have included those records, but I don't know if they will get loaded because they don't have item information in them
Okay.
in this first round.
Okay.
So again, the data that Melody sent last week, we're not loading that data. We are just using it for review. She will send another round of data matching the dates in your schedule. So for example, our friends at Northwood, they're scheduled to have their final data sent on March 18th. So they're the first ones in the group. They'll be the first ones for us to receive data from. So you have just under 2 months before the first round of data gets sent. So as you're continuing on any weeding projects or cleanup projects or anything of that nature, you do still have time. We are, I intentionally gave us a big cushion for this type of work. Yeah. Having worked with another consortial group in the past, it was very helpful with them as well to give us as much time as possible to go over data, figure out all the issues. I will say don't tell them. I love them very much, but your data is much cleaner than theirs was. So there's less need of some of that buffer time or any issues. But wonderful group to work with. But your data is much, much, much nicer to to work with and consistent. Great. Usually at office hours, I have something I want to go continue to expand on from the previous session, but course reserves is pretty straightforward, so I don't have anything to kind of follow up on with. If any other questions are out there, I'll just continue to hang out for a few more minutes, but other than that, that's all I really have for today.
I want to mention to the group that I started making our search box using the search box generator, and I have an example out there. If anyone's interested, I'll share the link in the chat. I'm working with our webmaster to see if there's any changes that she recommends that we have to make for our public website, but I did put it in LibGuides, and it is on the bottom of the page I just shared, if anyone is interested in checking it out, testing it.
So I did some search widget box experimentation too, and I was able to put it into Blackboard really easily. Looked really good, and yeah.
Great. That's really awesome. Thank you.
We had like a faculty PD day, so I just wanted to just give them a preview so they could get excited for July.
Yay!
Yay.
I love when faculty's excited. They're usually the ones that take to the change the hardest. Whereas your students, they're used to, things changing, right? Every time you go into one of the I have a teenage, a 17-year-old, so they're constantly doing everything in either TikTok or Instagram. But it changes pretty frequently, right? There are constant updates. So they're used to technology changing and adapting to that. Whereas sometimes our faculty has a little bit more difficult with that changeover. So it's good to start prepping them 6 months in advance. I love it. You guys are on top of it. Great.
Beth, I just had a really quick question. It's not related to anything we've been going over, but related to what we call Bursar in-out product within Sierra. I know that you had sent Kim and I a message about that.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about it quite a bit throughout the demo process. So I was really surprised that it was not it's considered a separate product. That was never mentioned to us at all. And so I just wanted to make sure, can you tell me what the product itself is called?
It's not actually so I think this is where there's a lot of confusion with it, because it's not actually a product. It's not a standalone product. It's a feature, an add-on feature. It's relatively new, and it's not one that is commonly added on, which is where I think the confusion for me was, because sometimes terminology that we use for things and terminology that our sales folks use don't always mesh up. So I was having some difficulty being clear with what I actually needed to share with you. And because it wasn't on the contract, and Kim kept saying, it's in the contract. I'm like, it's not in the contract. I had to have quite the conversation with our sales folks. And Joy did say that it was part of the conversation, but somehow didn't end up being included. Now, typically with that, it's called the bill connector. It is a feature. So I do need to, and I'll be doing that this week, requesting that our orders team turns on. It's just an asset that gets turned on and it's a self-serve feature. I'm actually going to have it also added to my test environment so that I can do it with you. The previous workflows didn't involve implementation at all. It would get turned on by orders, and then it went to our circulation product team. Well, that process has changed, and now it's all documented. Kim found the documentation. That's what helped me like clue into exactly what she was talking about, because I thought I was sending you to APIs, and that's not what we're doing here. So I have had a conversation with them. It's typically a $1,500 institution one-time fee for that. However, we're completely waiving that fee and adding that to everyone's instance. So we'll go over it probably closer to the time when we do circulation. I'm going to have to play with it because I've never set it up before. It wasn't something that we did in implementation. So, but Mike, our director of US sales for WMS, has waived the fee for you, and we're gonna get that added on.
Okay, thank you. Because we were never told that it was like a separate feature. We were just told it was included. So I didn't know to look for anything separate listed in our contract. Otherwise, we would have made sure it was there. But I will follow up with Joy about it as well.
Yeah,
But thank you for that. I
yeah,
appreciate it.
Joy got added to that thread, and she did say, yes, we talked about it, but I'm not sure where that broke down in the process. We've also, on the implementation side, have been having conversations related to whether or not there should be a fee or where it should live within implementation. So we're hoping to have additional conversations with sales about, because it's not a product, so there's no implementation fee. It's just a feature, and it's something that gets set up with your IT folks, and then the documentation is exactly what you'll need to do that process.
Well, thank you so much, Beth. We appreciate it.
Yeah, we want to make sure you guys have everything you need to be successful with the system. Because this isn't a widely used feature, there was just some confusion. So apologies on my part, but we tracked it down. Any other questions for today? Great. All right, folks. Well, we'll go ahead and kind of call it for today. I appreciate those of you that had the opportunity to log in and join, and we will be back together on Tuesday. Have a good weekend. Stay warm. I know we're supposed to get a heat wave. It's supposed to get into the 30s this weekend. So, yeah.
I'm so sorry. I have one question.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So I was finally getting into the collection manager yesterday and setting up everything. I'm unclear as to how I should set up the links for BadgerLink databases. If there is there certain settings or formatting that I should be doing? Like when you in the collection manager, there's that option to create the link format. I don't know if I'm saying this right.
So tell me a little more about the Badger Link, because is that like a Wisconsin consortial group that purchases
Yes,
resources
sorry.
for folks?
Yes, it is. And the way they set up their links is a little bit different. I can't just put the proxy in front of it. It has to it has these other elements. Sorry, I'm so bad at explaining technical
No,
things.
it's okay. I imagine it's very similar to what the North Carolina group does. So NC Live also does a similar process where they purchase in bulk as kind of like a buying group electronic resources that they make available, and there is a linking scheme as well as IP address access for libraries to get those materials. If anyone knows or has the linking scheme and can send it or provide it, I can take a look at it and see what that means.
Okay.
For setup.
I will send you something.
Okay. Yeah, just post it in Basecamp or send me an email.
Okay.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Great. All right, friends. Well, thanks for joining me today. I will see you next week. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much, Beth.
Yeah,
Sorry
no
about all my issues today.
Oh gosh, it happens. Been there. Half the time my cat turns he's made me leave the meeting before because he hit something on the keyboard. So we all go through it.
Well, have a good weekend. I'll see you on Tuesday.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.